All right, welcome everybody. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It is 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, coming to you from the great state of Texas, and going on March 22nd, 2021. Year seems to be flying by. So, without further ado, let me get over here to our crime scene, and we'll take a quick look. It looks like Bob Marley is headed south down to Jacksonville right now. So, just so you guys can see. That's Air Force 2 that is up. Now, I will tell you, I've gotten a couple comments back from others that this whole NA versus Air Force 2 stuff is a open ADS-B exchange issue. So I'm not real sure I don't know if that's the case or not, because if it was, I don't know why we would show Air Force 2 and not show Air Force One. And so Air Force One has been NA for a while, and so I'm not seeing a ton of NAs up there really. Just food for thought, but we'll continue to watch it and see. So let me see here, just to get down into the business here. But it is so. Where did our Air Force 2 go? I think I had it saved. Let me see if it's still on here under persistence, but. This that I'm tracking is not Air Force 2. That is actually on here right now is going to be our E6. And so you guys can see that. P8, P8. Again, we've got the P8s up. Okay, there's Air Force 2. All right, so it banked, took a hard ride on me as it's going into final. Looks like it's descending down to about 2,600 feet. So that is that. All right, so this is our E6. Of course, that's our electronic suite. For you guys not familiar with that, kind of bubble in on it. You can see it's got the little doghouse on the top, but this is a pretty advanced command center, airborne command center, so to speak. So they also call them looking glass. Okay, for those not familiar with that. But back to our area here. Now we've been watching over the last several weeks the fact that this looking glass is coming down over the coastline here. Is not shocking. We've been watching a lot of activity coming right out here. But the P3s, as you can see, this one's actually just looks like it's probably just doing some touch and goes. I can't really get anything, out of that unless they think somebody has gotten into this waterway here, which it's possible, but I just don't see that either. The P8s are up, look like they're coming inbound. And we've got another P8 right here that's done kind of the same thing out, just shooting patterns. So it doesn't look like they're out over the water today. But I will tell you, we did have some West Coast activity going on this morning. Now, for those not familiar, I've been telling you for a couple weeks now, I think we've got a sub somewhere in here that they've been looking for, okay? And so we've had a couple press releases here recently, and I knew it was coming. Eventually somebody was gonna spill the beans, but this is one that just popped up. Now this is a Soviet sub, what they call black hole submarine, and it's basically capable, it's just super stealthy. It gets in the water, nobody knows it's there. So here's another picture of it. But this thing goes under and you can't track it, okay? It's because of the way the doors are set up and the way the propulsion system is set up. And it's kind of like The Hunt for Red October, if you've ever seen that movie. And it almost sounds like we've got another similar situation or scenario going on where we have, a Soviet sub that's decided to basically break away from the Soviet Union, because they don't typically go silent like that without some type of authority. And so, but this is definitely a concern. And so if they have a sub out here like that off the coast, these subs carry nukes, and so it's kind of like a Club K. When you have a cargo ship that can come right in on your coastline or get up in your waterways, or even worse yet, come into Port Canaveral and unload a cargo and then send those Club K containers, missile systems, into land-based operations. That is a huge threat, because now instead of taking, a typical, 15 to 20 minutes for ICBM to be launched from, say, Russia, for example, into the United States, you now have a matter of minutes to respond. And if it's coming from within the United States, you really can't respond without poking yourself in the eye, right? So So that is a big concern. I don't know what's going on, if we just got some, they're just testing to see what they can get away with without being caught, or what the deal is. But we will continue to watch this side. Now, that said, I'm going to go over here to the West Coast, because we had P3s and a lot of activity off of this coast as well earlier this morning. And I don't see it happening now. I look like a lot of helos and stuff up, but not much going on out here over the water. This guy looks like he's just out flying around. That's just going to be a little fighter, unless, let me see the knots on that. 221, 1,200 feet. Could 158 knots. Yeah, that's probably a drone and not a fighter. So they're certainly out here looking for something. So they may have changed over to drone activity. And that looks like it's coming out of kind of like the Beale location. Let's see if it goes any further north up in Washington. So for it to come all the way down here and then doing that, that's definitely a drone. That's not a fighter. So, but we did have, for a pretty long period of time, some P3s out here flying around looking for stuff. Now, we do see them usually up here in the Tacoma area. I don't see any There's a P3 going landbound. Looks like it's headed eastbound. So, but that said, they appear to be looking for something off the coast here in California and off the coast out here off of Florida. So I think that may be our culprit. For them to say that thing went missing over in the Mediterranean, that's just probably a counter intel, if I had to guess. They're not going to tell you where it is or where they lost it. They're going to tell you where they want you looking, because they don't want you looking where they think it may be, which is off the coast of Florida. So they throw that out there as a counter intel, just to kind of, yeah, we lost it, acknowledgement, but this is where we think it is, and it's nowhere remotely close to where their story tells you. So, okay, so looks like coming out of Hawaii, we've got a couple. That's a C-17. Looks like that's just bugging out, and then a tanker that's just popped up too. Now that tanker looks like it's coming from out here in the Pacific, but it looks like maybe it stopped in here in Oahu and is bugging back out. So now we're going to jump into some of the TFRs real fast, just so you guys can see it. Now that one right there is a US air refueler, which is up there over the Northern Arch. That's kind of pretty far up. Don't see that very often, but interesting. Okay. All right, and then we'll look over here on the Middle East too. But let me jump in real fast before we get too far ahead of ourselves. We're going to take a look at the TFRs that are currently up, just to see where we've got activity going on, forward thinking from a flashbang and Bob Marley perspective. Okay, and so let me clear this. I've got fires still showing on my map. Now, speaking of severe weather, you guys can see, everybody knows I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so we've got thunderstorms rolling through. This is out west of us, but we've got another set around coming in right now. So hopefully I'll be off air before that ever hits. I think I've got probably about 20 or 30 minutes before that's right on top of us. So, but that said, so we've got some VIP TFRs right here in Jacksonville. Notice the size of these, very small. So you usually don't see that small, even over your residence. Like that's a Disney, that's a pretty small one. I mean, it's really technically not small, but when you look at it compared to the stuff that we're about to look at, it is small. So, but these are all TFRs relative to VIP activity, which is going to be Bob Marley. Bob Marley is actually coming into town today. And so that is what we have there. Okay. Now, if we get back down here to this area where West Palm Beach, you notice we don't have any type of TFR, and there's been talk that he kind of goes between these two, and he's over in Tampa at his other Trump Tower location, and we don't have anything over there either. So, okay, so let's head up north. We still have an active TFR over the Warner Robins area. And then, of course, over the Senior Living Center here in the Brown Zone, we still have, that's permanent as always. And this one, I'm not sure what's going on near Columbus, but that is also a VIP TFR. So I don't know who is headed that way, if there's something going on. But according to, now, if I go over here and I look at Flashbang's schedule, I can tell you he doesn't have anything on there. He's not flying anywhere. You know, he's got a couple press briefings. He kicks off about 10 a.m., which is a kind of a late start. And let's see, I mean, wraps up at 7 p.m. with a virtual meeting, a caucus, Democratic caucus meeting during some annual retreat. So maybe that's what that is going on up here at the VIP. Not really sure. I couldn't find anything on it, but I can tell you I didn't see anything relative to Bob Marley or Flashbang going into that area. But, you know, that could be tomorrow, and it's just not shown on the schedule yet. So we'll continue to watch that and see if anything shows up. All right, and let me back out a little bit. So these right here, when you see these little blue symbols that look like little cups, like a chalice, that is actually going to be icing. So that's just basically a, well, doesn't want to pull up, but just kind of to show you what I'm looking at here. So that is an icing icon, and that just tells pilots. So I have the pilot weather pulled up. That's how I get the TFRs, okay? IFR, just think of it, I is the instrument, V is visual. And so when you see IFR, that just means that, you know, lets a pilot know that, hey, if you're coming into this area on approach or taking off, you're going to be doing instrument, okay? And then these are turbulence. These are the things you don't like to see. But looks like we've got a little bit of bumpiness out there. But anyway, all right. So Texas, we still have, looks like something down in the Killeen area, and also along the Texas border that still is maintaining. Now it's interesting, they keep going red to yellow, and I don't understand why that is. And so I may just have to reach out to the FAA and ask them why they alternate between the two. So, but maybe it's active and one is a precautionary. It seems kind of logical, but I don't know. Again, I'm just guessing. So, all right. That is kind of where we are. Now, we do have something up here in the Minnesota area, and I'm not sure. Let me see if I can get a little closer to see what that may be TFR-wise, and it looks like it's just hazards. And don't really know. Something to do with Emergency Response Act, Minneapolis, so I don't know. There's something going on. It may be FEMA related or something, flooding or anything. So, okay. Let me back out of this. Actually, we'll take a little spin out west real fast. I'm just going to see if we've got anything strange going on out here. Now, that's Guam. That's going to be a security TFR. And I'm not seeing any earthquake stuff here, which is really interesting. I do see these storms popping up. So we're definitely getting into the season, right? And so it looks like we got a couple earthquakes here. But other than that, okay. So we'll back out. Now this stuff here, this is usually firing when it comes off of that, this area, usually a little north of that, we'll start to get some of the tropical storms and stuff developing out here. So looks like that'll be firing here soon. We're definitely getting into the weather pattern for that. So, okay, back to our crime scene. So we looked at these subs and what we think that may be off of the coast here. I'm going to take persistence off because it is definitely holding a lot of our aircraft up. So if we go look at our total count for today, we're at 301, which is about 50 high, higher than usual. And I'm not seeing any. We got one B-52 up. I saw somebody talking about that recently. Now that's coming out of Barksdale Air Force Base, and it looks like it's flying. It looks like it just flew out over Kentucky and back. Really don't see him go that direction very often, but altitude, let's see where that bad dude is. 19,000 and climbing. So we'll see. It's got some weather moving in, so they may either continue to fly and get above that, or they may try to get back to base before that comes in. So ain't no telling. So, all right, a lot of two ships. So I think what we're seeing, like for example, right here, this is actually more than two. It's a 3 ship of C-130s. See that one just disappeared. Go over here to my persistence, pull it back up. Can't get away. All right, and so these guys are look like they're headed westbound. Now, I'm continuing to see this type of activity going on. I think what I think's going on is I think we've got a big push for vaccination. I think they're moving it across the country, right? I think they're going to try to do this big vaccine push, but Now, I'm going to tell you, just going from a biblical perspective, there's a lot of misinformation saying that this stuff is mark of the beast and all the other things. This is going to be a precursor. It is just a lead up to it. It's not the mark of the beast. If you go read your Bible, it'll walk you through what the mark of the beast is. And I just did a show a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, on that mark of the beast. And so just make sure you're not being misled. If you hear that, don't panic, because there's a lot to it. And all of these things, these technologies that we see, all its tracking capabilities and things of that nature, they're all just enablers. And when it comes to taking that mark, that is actually going to be a choice you have to make. And you're going to know it is to worship the Antichrist. So it's not, anyway, I'm delving off into a rabbit hole here for folks, but just telling you, it's not that. So, but I definitely think they're rolling out a big push on vaccine. So that's maybe why we see all these aircraft going into these major cities. So looks like we got a little Canadian P3 up here. So maybe the Canadians are a little concerned that they need to be looking as well. And so a little search activity. Let's see here. All right, get over here. So we got a C-130 crossing the drink. And we're going to look a little closer in here in just a minute. And so before we get into that, let me get into our normal prison stuff. And so you guys can see. So Sarah, I'm watching your comment in there about a C-130 over, it's an Egyptian C-130 over southern New Jersey flying at 95,000 feet. So that is definitely not accurate on the altitude. I can tell you, you're not going to get a C-130 at 95,000 feet. The only things that you'll find at 95,000 feet are probably like an SR-71, and even that may even be above the U-2 level, but that's classified. So, but all right, so we'll come back to this hot mess right here in just a minute. So let me get over here. I want to just take a look at Guantanamo Bay. And the reason I want to point out this is because you'll notice I'm starting to see, this is Charleston again. Okay, so it looks like we may have a new Tempo aircraft coming in to basically to Guantanamo Bay. So we'll continue to watch that and see. But that looks like, if I go down here to that aircraft, and I'm going to show you real quickly this one as I pull it up. If we get down here and we look at where this plane has been back and forth, we're going to see a tempo established pretty quickly, okay? And so you can see it's Norfolk to Guantanamo, Charleston to Guantanamo. It's going back and forth, and so this looks to be, since actually late February, we've seen it kind of going back and forth, starting to do this route. So that, I think, is a new established tempo that we're just going to start to see content coming out of Charleston. Okay, so we'll continue to watch that. It's good to know, because that was a little concerning at first when I saw it pop on, because I didn't know really what that was all about. Hadn't seen anything coming out of Charleston prior to that. So, all right. Now, there are some stats I want to take a look at. Let me pop in a little deeper on this board here, because you have to click. It won't always show you what's coming. And so you have to actually pull the board up and look. But you can see there's that Charleston flight. And looks to be, this is kicking off the week. So it is Monday. But there are some stats that are kind of interesting. And now it doesn't, if you can look at the flight activity compared to the same week in 2019, they're down 54%. So good sign, I guess, for us. For 2020, it may have been an uptick. Now, this is kind of a very blotchy set of algorithms, okay? But if you go into today, for example, on this date, you'll see that in 2019, we actually had 6 arrivals and departures, okay? And so it'll tell you kind of some historical data, so you kind of know to expect. If you're seeing an aircraft come in and it's on a regular tempo or rhythm, it's going to be popping on those dates, okay? And so just something, it's just a data point. I don't know how accurate, I mean, I guess it's accurate, but it's kind of hard to disseminate whether or not you're really looking at something out of sequence or not, because depending on the type of aircraft could change everything, right? And who's flying it, who the provider is, all that good fun stuff. So, okay. Now we'll bump over here. Now this is our Tercera, okay, and these are the stats for this. Now I've been watching it. You can see you've got aircraft that are en route. Now keep in mind that is also an international airport, okay, as well as it kind of splits and shares the base, the airport, with a Air Force base, okay, and so you're going to get commercial flights coming in and out of there as well. What we're looking for are those arrivals that are just kind of oddballs, okay? If I were to get in here and look at this, now I don't know what WET stands for. I have to research that. But here's the thing. If I go down, there's actually stats on this as well. Now, Tercera, for those not familiar, this is one of our little prison locations. And if I were to, if you pull that up on a weather map and you zoom in, actually just on a map in general, the Google map, and you zoom in, there's a prison on there that's definitely a high security prison. And there's speculation that that is one of our prison locations, okay? Now, it is in the middle of nowhere. So it's off the coast of Spain, and it's just, a little bit north of Africa. And so, but it's a fuel stop for a lot of aircraft, okay? But the ones that we've been watching coming and going, no rhyme or reason. They'll go from here up to Iceland, which tells you that is definitely not a normal route, okay? Especially if this was going to be a fuel stop, okay? So, but that said, we'll get down here and just kind of look at some of the stats. If you look at the historical data, it says right now that activity is down about 8% compared to the same week last year. But the year is still young, and you can see in 2019 this was definitely an uptick to this island, okay? And so this blue line here is what we're watching today, and we're going to watch for that to trend upward as well. And if not, it may just stay flat all the way through. But you can see in 2020, about this time of year, it kind of dipped down. There's really not much going on, and then it kind of leveled back out. So no rhyme or reason to it, but just something, because there's commercial aircraft involved in this, you're not going to have as blotchy data. You can see, there are some little spots where there's nothing, okay, but that could have been anything. Could have been weather related, could have been a lot of stuff. Remember, that's only a 3-month period, so, and that particular area, if it's hurricane season, gets impacted, okay. All right. Over to N312FU, that's our Maxwell bird. And so this one looks like it has just rolled out of Columbus, and it was headed down, or actually it's scheduled from Columbus, Georgia down to Lauderdale. This one was kind of active over the weekend. So if I go back and look from, let's just say our last little check-in was Friday, it's been in Orlando over to Palm Beach International, and then from there it went out to the Nassau, Bahamas, back to Lauderdale. Now, these sites right here, when I start seeing that kind of stuff, Nassau, there's a few islands out there that are definitely known black sites. And so this is an agency bird. So when I start seeing them pop in and out of some of these little locations like this, and Trinidad, Tobago, those are definitely things that, like this one right here, this Port of Spain TNT, that's Trinidad, Tobago. When I see them doing that, that starts to tell me that somebody's getting a shakedown, okay? And so we'll continue to watch this one, but this was our one of our Maxwell birds. This one popped into the spa back in the day when she was apprehended. So here we are again. This one now in Georgia, off to down by Miami and Apalaca, and then Dublin, Georgia, again Dublin, Columbus. And now it's going to go back. Now its base operations is in Lauderdale. So that's one we're going to watch. We'll continue to watch it. So see what happens here. But I did just read a report that they actually apprehended a bunch of human trafficking activities off the coast of Miami in the last day or two. So, when we start seeing that and we see shakedowns going on, it's kind of promising, I guess. So, okay. Now, this is, what am I looking at here? This is going to be one of our Phoenix Airs, and this one is down in Lima, Peru, and it looks like it actually just took off out of Lima, and it's headed southbound, and so it looks like it's going to go from Caracas to Puerto Rico. That's today. And so, and here it is in Peru, and it doesn't have an arrival. So we know where it's going to end up going. I guess it's going down from Lima, Peru to Caracas to then back up to Puerto Rico. So that's definitely suspect. So we'll watch that. Now, if you remember, there's a lot of activity going on with the Spec Ops birds. So if you look at the magma birds that were coming out of Miami, they were doing a lot of work in this general area in Bogota and up here in Trinidad, Tobago, and they're all over the place. So to see one of these Phoenix birds coming down here, definitely got somebody doing something. So, all right, here's another Phoenix bird. This is 173. Now, this one's coming out of Iceland down to the US. Okay, it looks like it flew into the brown zone. But if we kind of back it up here over the weekend, that thing came out of Athens, Greece, and then it went to the Ukraine, from the Ukraine over to Iceland down to DC. So here Friday this past week, it was at Terceira Island, right? So that's our prison location, okay, over to Athens. So definitely looks like our Phoenix birds are kind of getting back into the action. Now, here's the one we just looked at. That's the one that's down in Lima, Peru, headed southbound. And earlier this morning, I saw the little one that was doing the hop, but it's not on there anymore. But it was coming out of Southern California, going over to the little island there. So, all right. So that's where our Phoenix birds are. Not seeing much in terms of globally. Okay. We've been seeing them out here in Africa. And but looks like the only one that's up right now is down in South America. So, all right, now we will. So Jeannie, this I see your question about why are there 2 Air Force 2s up. Okay, so keep in mind, the only time that it is called Air Force 2 is when the VP is on that aircraft. When it comes to those 757s, for those there are probably maybe a dozen of those 757-200 aircraft that are in the fleet, in the U.S. fleet, they're the same ones that Trump flew on. It's the same one that Bob Marley's flying on. The only time it gets the Air Force 2 designation is when Bob Marley is on it, okay? Same thing with Air Force 1. The only time it gets Air Force 1 designation is when Flashbang is on it, okay? And so but they have multiple aircrafts, and so when you see those things flying around, it doesn't mean that Bob Marley or Air Force or Flashbang are on either one of those. It only gets that designation if their butt is in the seat or they're on that aircraft. Okay, so that would not be, in this case. It's probably not going to be Bob Marley because we know that she's in Jacksonville right now. So what that probably is that could be whoever Pompeo's replacement was. It could be Secretary of State. Could be any one of those because they also fly on those same aircraft. Okay, and so that's what you're probably seeing. Okay, and we'll dig in a little closer here in just a second. So yeah, only one call sign Air Force 2. That's right. That's only when Bob Marley's on it. Okay. All right, and so let me get in here. I just want to take a quick gander. Now, I saw something over the weekend that caught my eye, and that was, if you guys remember, when Trump was flying recently. Now, there's this Galex, okay, and it's this little Bombardier Global aircraft. These things are little pocket rockets. They're like a fighter with luxury seats on it, okay. Their altitude, like this one right now, is at 43,000 feet. It's clicking about 500 miles an hour, and it is a very nice aircraft. Okay, it's kind of like the G5s or G6s. It's a super duper high end, but it is, you almost have to be a commercial or actually a former fighter pilot to fly these things because they are so responsive and so high end. It's like the Formula One race cars of aircraft, okay, for commercial. All right, And so, but when Trump was at CPAC, that is who he flew, right? So what it is basically it's like a flex jet. It's the same thing. You basically buy hours, and you're not locked down to one tail number. They have a fleet of them, and it's all based on availability. And you're basically it's like pay to play, right? So you're just renting space. Now those aircraft, to rent them, I looked into it because we were several of us were talking about, we didn't want to fly commercial, and we're like, man, why don't we just go get we'll just all throw in and rent, one of those, flex jets, and we'll fly to Israel. We'll just go over there and do our own tour. We don't need all of this commercial hassle, okay? And we checked into it, and we quickly backed out of it because for 8 of us, it was like $100,000 round trip to rent that aircraft. It's $3,500 an hour, 28 hours, I think it was, round trip. And it turned out to be insanely expensive. And we quickly were like, yeah, that's not going to be us. So you can get a first class ticket on a major airline over there and back for about half of that per person. So it didn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, but this Glex, as I digress, I saw a couple of these over the weekend, and they were actually called the Black Wolf was the call sign, which I found very interesting because there were 2 of them up, and I don't know where they were coming out of Saudi, but the call sign being Black Wolf was, I thought, kind of telling. Okay, so we could probably find out who is referenced in the Saudi kingdom as a Black Wolf. I'm sure there's probably somebody out there that has that name. Okay, so but looks like we've got one of the Glexes coming out of, that's down south of Najaf. So that's in Iraq, actually. And so there's no telling who's on this bird right here. But again, it's a definitely, I don't know. It could be somebody from the U.S., could be anybody really. But here's another G5. Now these are, get a closer look at this. Now this is the Israeli bird we're talking about. Notice that canoe underneath the bottom there, or that doghouse. This aircraft is a spy plane, okay? It has got electronic suite on it that is unmatchable in the industry. It is straight up, when that thing is out, they are definitely looking for something or up to something. And so you see it out over the water here doing its little flights, okay? And we've got several of them. So you've got one here, and it looks like another one right here doing the same stuff. So that tells me you probably have and you'll see something spike in the news here soon, but the Israelis have been doing this quite a bit lately. And so that actually, looks like they've got 3 of those bad dudes up. So this is very interesting, very interesting. So that area is going to be, I'm telling you, going forward, it's going to be, like I said before, hotter than a junkie spoon. So we need to keep our eye on that area because I think this is where we're going to see things start to heat up. We're already starting to see Damascus stuff happening, and that's Isaiah 17. So I expect any moment to wake up and see Damascus is a pile of rubble. So just based on the activity going on, because what you have is you've got Turkey, Iran, and Russia all moving into this area right here, and they're setting up shop, and Israel does not like it by any means, okay? But the other hand, what you also have is you got the Saudi Arabian government, who the Saudis are now working with them to run a pipeline, and they are in this partnership project, and you're getting ready to see the third temple stuff being freed up because Saudi is starting to say that Mecca and Medina are their only Islam holy sites, and that the place in Israel, in Bethlehem, is not even remotely important to them. So, and that just recently happened. So that's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. So, all right, there's our tanker we see up in this area all the time. So that tells us we've got fighters up in this general area. All right, and then we also, looks like we've got a UK Airbus that is buzzing out across the area and coming out of, I don't know where that is. So anyway, it looks like they're just doing a pass through high altitude. So, all right, let's get into this general area. Now that right there is going to be a drone. See the airspeed on that? So this, as we get in, that's a drone that is up, and I don't see. What's interesting is it's not showing. Its altitude's 2,500 feet, which is pretty low. Notice the airspeed, 58 knots. The thing's just standing still. So in a headwind, it probably barely moves at all. But definitely, it's a military, and they call it Cyclops. So there's no telling what that is. But that bad dude's probably getting ready to bust up and get up around 50, 60,000 feet and do some surveillance. So, all right. Now, if we get into here, looks like another Airbus that's coming down. Who is that? It's the UK. These are all fighters in here. Notice they're NAs. Let me see who they belong to. That's German fighters. So those are probably, they're not Eurofighters, but they're definitely something along that line. Okay. Here's another UK. That's the A400 high wing. More fighters. That's a Eurofighter. That's what you would kind of expect to see in the area. And as we get in over here, these are all tankers that look like they're running. That's a 3-ship of U.S. military tankers. So I don't know what we're doing over there. We may just be doing some stuff, but you can see that's an air refueling area right there, that AARA 11. So it looks like they did a little air refueling work out here and then went back up north and are coming back down. So let's see here. And that's just going to be an Airbus. That is probably one of their air refuelers as well, if I had to guess. Yeah, that's a... So the Brits use an Airbus typically for air refueling. And as you can see, running that marshalling pattern out here in the middle of that blue square. So they're doing air refueling right there. Okay, another Eurofighter. And man, there's a lot of Eurofighters up there actually in that one. So there looks like they're doing some air refueling stuff out here, more than likely off of that. Now that's going to be a 2-ship of C-130s. That's US. Looks like they're coming out of there. And then these are Apache gunships right here. So there's 3, and that's a 2-ship of Apaches. So pretty sweet. All right. Okay. So let's get, I think I have covered, oh wait, I was looking at Atlas Air before I started getting into, because I was answering one of your questions. Okay. So we've been watching Atlas Air. For you guys that aren't familiar, it is actually, this stuff is normal when you get them out in this area, right across the drink. That is kind of the normal routes you'll see of these 747s. Okay, Atlas Air is the biggest 747 fleet in the world. I mean, they're unmatched. They can move some serious tonnage anywhere in the world. Okay, but when you start seeing them coming over here on this side, that tells you things are spooling up. And so this one is actually one that is coming back. Looks like it's coming out of Frankfurt, but it didn't go into Frankfurt when I was watching it earlier. It actually had flown, well, yeah, I guess it is showing Frankfurt, but it had shown a different aircraft or different landing location. But Frankfurt's one of their hubs. So, but they will, when they start coming over here, that's when we start paying attention, because that means something is usually in the works downstream. So no telling what it is. This could be, they could be getting vaccinations coming in, and bringing them across the drink back to us. Just really depends. But this is, if we look at the Atlas Air schedules, this is all of their aircraft that are up, and you can see this one that's just rolling now out of Frankfurt. But this is what we want to watch. Now, one thing I will tell you, I don't see on the board this for right now is El Paso. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm not seeing any normal El Paso stuff. Now let me go look real fast to see if our Kalita bird is still, let's see, CK. There we go. Okay, so that landed 14 hours ago, Lauderdale to El Paso. All right, so that is that's definitely different right there. Not the normal. It was coming out of Charleston to El Paso. That was the leg. But again, this is an agency bird, and so there's no telling what we got going on here, but very unusual to see it come out of that. So you can see it actually went down. That is interesting. So Saturday, El Paso, Texas to Charleston. That was the route this thing had been hitting. And all of a sudden it went Charleston to Brown Zone down to Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico back to Lauderdale, Lauderdale over to El Paso. Now let's see if it's just pre-positioning itself to do a flight back to, pick back up on the schedule. But that stuff right here is all out of sequence. So there's no telling what's going on there. When I see Puerto Rico, that is a little bit of a flag for me, because there's a prison down there that is a holding spot for people awaiting trial. It's a pretty nice little prison, but just data point again as we continue to watch them. So now I'm looking for, going forward, seeing if we get this stuff going back to Charleston, El Paso to Charleston, to pick back up on that tempo and rhythm. Okay. And that is Dover. So this is where our Atlas Air came out of. So it came out of Dover Air Force Base, went to Frankfurt. So that's why it got my attention. All right. So we'll continue to watch the Atlas. Okay. Let me get back over here to our crime scene. Over to the US. Give the screen time to marinate here. A lot of Hilo stuff going on. Got a little Osprey right there. Let's see if that's a US. Yeah, United States. Little Osprey in the mix. Sky's getting dark outside, so I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quickly because I can just see us losing comms here. So, all right, there's our B-52. Looks like that one is just rolling out of Ellsworth Air Force Base, I think. Looks like it's flying. That's Billings, Montana, right there. So. They do a lot of low levels and stuff out here in this general area too. So they'll do all kinds of different stuff. So, and looks like we got a little H-60 out there in the same neck of the woods. And Helena, Reach, that's on ground. That one's on ground. Got a C-5. Looks like that is rolling out of San Fran area. A lot of tankers, a lot of fighters. So. Okay, and all this congestion, kind of interesting to see them out here. So that's going to be an air refueler. That's what they call Pegasus, and that's kind of the newer variants of air refuelers. Right, KC-135s are the old school stuff. And got a little Reach. Looks like that thing is headed out of the south of Austin. So that's headed. No telling where that one's headed. We'll watch to see if that ends up, that could come down, could come to the spa. There's no telling, right? So there's one just taking off out of Puerto Rico. Now, when you see these Reach aircraft and they have a T on the back end of it, they're actually usually flying right behind either going to be Bob Marley or Flashbang. And it's because the T behind that, what I found is that's the transportation. That's the motor pool. And so they'll either have Marine One on there, the helicopters, or they'll have the Beast and all the cars and the SUVs for Secret Service and everybody else on that. So when you see that Reach and it's got a T on the back end, that's usually a pretty good indicator that is supporting somebody in the presidential suite. So. Okay, all this congestion, these are all trainers. Same thing here, all trainer activity. Two ship here of air refuelers. And as we kind of delve in here, North Carolina. So what we have here, that just looks like Otis is just doing some touch and goes there at an airport. A couple of two ships here over Fayetteville, and then another one looks like it's coming out of Fayetteville. So. All right, what do we have out here? E6. So there's our command center. Now remember, this one has that unique capability that they're able to communicate on the submarine ICBM. So any kind of nukes on submarines, they can coordinate that a little different than Night Watch. Okay, so but again, out here, the fact that that's out here, I would not be surprised to see some more P8 activity coming out here as well. So okay. Well, I think, let me just look over our stuff here. Not seeing, okay. All right, don't see anything else on there from the chat standpoint. So, okay, well, I will keep you guys posted. Tomorrow's our normal SITREP, so we'll kind of do some deep dive tomorrow on a lot of the same stuff, carryover stuff, and then and we'll see what else we have. Please look at Air Force 2 Gulf 5 mid-conus. All right, so we got a G5. Still looking. Got a P8 out there, R35 electronic suite, a couple Learjets. There we are, right there. AF2. Huh. What in the deuce? Now that one is perplexing because how is that possible when we just saw, we know actually Bob Marley's on the ground in Jacksonville. Like we saw that, it arrived, it did its thing, and now you've got another. I don't even have an answer for that. That is impossible. Impossible unless they canceled, but it wouldn't be called Air Force 2. Because that, in order for that to be called AF2, it has to have, Bob Marley's got to be butt in the seat on that. So that is very intriguing. Unless you got a decoy, but no, I mean, we know, we actually have the VIP. You guys look over here. All right, let me get back to our thing. That's International Space Station, by the way. You can track that on this app too, kind of cool. All right, so now that is very interesting. And the reason I say that is because those VIPs right there in Jacksonville, that's Bob Marley. And we know, I mean, the news is reporting that she's down there. So to see that is very strange. Very strange. I don't have an answer for that. I really don't. That shouldn't be, that call sign should not be up. Now that could be the same aircraft that they flew on before whenever they were over in Denver, and maybe they on the aircraft's transponder or whatever, maybe they keyed in the ident that's still showing Air Force 2 and they don't realize it. I don't know. That is very, very, very perplexing. So that's the only thing I can think of is maybe the ID on that thing is they didn't change it and they're just not aware that they're flying. Well, they'd have to be, because I guarantee the tower, air traffic control is probably talking to them, thinking that's Bob Marley on there. So, but we know that's not, because that's down here. So I don't know. We'll have to watch the news cycle and see if they report on some kind of weird, cancellation of a trip one way and going to another. But that's definitely strange. Never seen that before, ever. So continue to watch and see. I can tell you that 100% that's not Pence. So that would not be him on there. Okay, they don't get that designator after they've left office. So hey, also I just want to tell you guys, if you saw, there is somebody that's got like 1 million plus followers that posted that Trump was in Atlanta stepping off of Air Force One. Complete hogwash. That video was from 8 months ago. So there is a campaign in place to mess with us, and I'm telling you, that is exactly what they're doing, with the intent of doing that. They are just trying to stir us up to keep us going so that we just look like idiots. So don't take the bait. When you see it, just peel the onion a little bit, go key it in, and see if you can find the same video previously, and you will very quickly. And so that's how you can just debunk that pretty quickly. But don't take the bait. Okay, Trump did not go to Atlanta this weekend on Air Force One and didn't step off of it. So it's all bogus. So that's a good find. Whoever found that, that's good eyes. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. I'll dig into that a little bit and see what we can find. That's very, very interesting. So you guys be safe out there. Have a blessed day. And I'll be back at you tomorrow. And maybe we'll have a little more information on this one. If you can find something, email me or message me. And so that's it. You guys be safe. God bless. Monkey out.